Yeah, Ravina, you can make me co-host now.
There you go. Hi, Dawn. Nice to see you. Good to have you here. Welcome, everybody. Good to have everyone here today on Saturday. It is 10:30 a.m. my time. I'm in Pacific Standard Time. Some of you might almost be after lunch, I would say, if you're 3 hours ahead. I actually have had a few people from the UK in my classes. So what is that? Kind of like in the evening, I think. Maybe by now it might be in the later evening. Welcome, come on in, get yourself comfy. I just got myself my green drink, so I'm halfway done my green drink for Saturday morning, a little bit more casual. A little bit more casual for me. So we'll just wait another minute or two and just see who's going to show up. Hi, Nancy, you're back. That's good to have you. And Gladys, actually, both of you were at my last class, I believe. Wow, from Israel. Okay, so it's 8:30. Neat. I think we even have sometimes people coming from Australia. So not this early, I don't believe, because it would be too early in the morning, but around noonish. It's more like 7, I think, in the morning for them in Australia. All right, so we've started our recording. We are live streaming today. And just to make sure we're all in the right spot, we're going to talk about brain health today. Optimal brain health and ways that we can reduce our risk of dementia, which I think is sort of a bit of a worry for a lot of us, isn't it? I think it is. All those years I worked in nursing and lifestyle and as a rehab consultant, boy, people were worried about dementia, getting dementia. You know, it's just one of those things we can tend to worry about, especially as we age, because we see it, we sort of seem to see it more and more. All right, I'm going to start by sharing my screen, and then this is just so we can make sure we're all in the right spot. We're in the class that we want to be in. And welcome to all of you that are live streaming in. I know I can't see who you are, so you will have to register for a class if you actually want to meet me and tell me who you are. Otherwise, you're welcome to be here and just see what my classes are like. This is going to be pretty similar to how I teach. How I teach most of my classes. I really like interaction and engagement because that's how we really learn. I really feel when we have an interaction, then we do remember things better. And for those of you that have not met me, my name is Ravina Chandra, and I'm one of the guides here at Get Set Up. I do most of my classes are the health and wellness and some personal growth classes because those are my areas of like love. I love those areas. So I'm not like an expert in everything, but I have had quite a few years of experience over the last 30 years in my career. So we do learn from each other, and I do recommend maybe taking a class 1 or 2 times because it's really interesting to see what questions come up in that class and how much we can learn from somebody else who might be very similar to us. Like you go, wow, I got those same symptoms, or I felt the same way. So sometimes we're too shy to ask a question, and I do encourage you to type it in if you're too shy to speak up, or just take yourself off of mute. Or what I really love is using the reactions button down below, and you can put your hand up, and hopefully I see it because it shows up in your square. And then when it's the timing for me to answer a question, then I can address the question. We have Nancy from support today. We also have Nancy in the class, Nancy in class, and we have Nancy as our support. And she can help you with any technical questions you have, or as she's listening to the class, if there's something that she can look up and put a definition or something like that in the chat, she might do that to help the class along. So let's move forward. It is being recorded, as I said, and you can ask for a copy of the recording at the end of the class. And then lastly, we don't get paid for kickbacks for any kind of product or service that I might talk about. And I do talk about products and services sometimes in the class, something that I might really love. Okay. So today we're going to learn, really exciting, we're going to learn the difference between dementia and Alzheimer's. We always hear those things interchangeably sometimes, but they are different. So we're going to learn the difference. We're going to understand the risk factors for dementia and what is a risk factor, and then how we can greatly reduce our risk of getting dementia. That's really big. And then we're going to learn some optimal brain health foods that our brain really loves to keep our brain in really good shape, and some body practices to fuel and to exercise and to train our brain. And I think often we've heard about we hear that term, use it or lose it. It really does have real truth to it. Use it or lose it. You notice if you stop exercising, even just in a week, 1 week, maybe you go on vacation and you're not going to the gym, or you're not doing what you normally do. Even if you go swimming, for example, and you swim at a local pool, and you go swimming twice a week or once a week, you miss it for 1 week. Oh my gosh. Do you notice how rusty you get? So it's the same with our brain. If we don't use it, we can start to lose kind of, optimal function of our brain. So let's get right into it. So my first question to all of you, I'm really curious, who here knows how many different types of dementia are out there? Do you have any idea? Take a guess. Anybody want to give a guess?
No.
There's a lot. I was so shocked when I read it. I had to check it. I checked my sources, made sure that I had the facts right. There's over 400 types of dementia.
Wow.
That's a lot, isn't it? It's a lot. But we hear about ones maybe more often than at other times, because there are some that are probably more rare, and maybe they're still coming up with new ones. I know one of the more recent ones that has been discovered is autoimmune dementia. And that, and I would say, is maybe the only dementia that you can 100% get cured from. Because right now with dementia in general, there is no cure. They have treatment, but there's no cure. They haven't figured that part out. I read this amazing story of this woman who had dementia-like symptoms, full-on dementia. She thought it was going down that path. Her family was so worried. As it turned out, she had an autoimmune issue going on that was causing the dementia. And so in that sense, she was somebody who fully recovered. Very, very rare to have, I think, and very the only one that maybe you can recover 100%. So let's have a look. Can anybody now guess what is the most common type of dementia? No one?
Alzheimer's?
Alzheimer's. Was that Carol that said it? Yes. You're right, Carol. You are right. Alzheimer's. And guess what? Isn't this crazy? Look at that. 60 to 80% of all those dementia. So remember, dementia is like the umbrella term, and we have all the different types of dementia below it, okay? Alzheimer's takes up 60 to 80% of all the dementias. Huge. That's why we hear about it all the time. And that's why often we just say Alzheimer's when maybe we mean dementia in a statement. Does anybody want to guess what the second most common dementia is? Can you think of another one? Just think of another dementia that you've heard of.
Cause from aging.
Good. That's a great guess, Dawn, and we're going to unpack that in a few minutes, because this is what's really important for us. My goal from this class is that you go away from this class thinking, phew, I'm not so stressed out about dementia anymore. I don't want you to be stressed by it. When you learn the facts, the actual facts, as opposed to what you see in the media or what you hear in the media, you'll be surprised. So the second most common is vascular dementia. Vascular dementia. So vascular dementia is what happens when we've had a pretty significant stroke. The chances of getting vascular dementia are high. It doesn't mean you are going to get it, but if you've had a stroke, but there's a good correlation here. You have that lack of oxygen to the brain when you have the stroke, and now you've developed a vascular dementia. So just think of it for 1 second, because we're going to get more into it. But if, say, you've got a couple uncles maybe that have dementia, you go, oh, they have dementia, oh my gosh, it runs in my family, I'm going to get dementia. Well, what if they have vascular dementia? Maybe their lifestyle is nothing like your lifestyle, and they ended up with vascular dementia. It doesn't seem then that your chances of getting it is huge, because maybe your lifestyle is completely different than theirs. So keep that in mind as we go through the class. Okay, let me just... Okay, so who here thinks that dementia is part of normal aging?
No.
No? Well, the answer to that is it's not part of normal aging. Some people think it is, because it becomes more and more popular as we go along, but it really isn't. In fact, most of us are going to have our memories, and we're going to have our memories. We're going to have good cognitive function right up until we pass. We're going to remember our stories from school, from, maybe not as detailed as when we were younger, but we're going to have our memories. We're going to have our life experience. We're going to have our work experience. We're not going to lose our skills. We're going to remember all these things. For the most part, most of us are. That's really, really great. So now, who was it? Dawn mentioned it. I think it was Dawn. Correct me if I'm wrong. About 40% of us, when we hit age 65, we're going to have some type of memory impairment. It's called Age Associated Memory Impairment. But here's the difference. The thing is, that is not dementia. So that does not mean, oh, I've been diagnosed with dementia. It's just what they call exactly that, age-associated memory impairment. So for all of us, when we turn age, I'm not quite 65, I'm 55, so I have 10 years. But when you hit 65, 40% of us, that's still less than half, might have some type of age-related memory impairment. But that's why you guys are here in class today, because we're going to learn all about brain health and how we can keep our brain sharp. So this is just like a statistic. But again, what I want you to take from this is it does not mean you have dementia. You might say, oh, my memory's not as sharp as it was when I was in my 20s. Well, maybe it's not. It might not be quite as sharp as when you were in your early 20s, but that doesn't mean you have dementia. One of the big questions I get, now I've been a nurse for many years, and I've worked in different locations and done different things, but whenever anybody finds out that I have a medical background, if we happen to be talking about dementia and Alzheimer's and things like that, the number one question I get is, I have a family member with Alzheimer's. Does that mean I'm going to get it? Now, why do people say that? Because they're scared. They see something in the media. They hear a sad story. They hear how prevalent Alzheimer's is. Now, I'm not going to say that it isn't, because like we just saw the stats. If dementia is 400 dementias and Alzheimer's takes up 60 to 80% of them, that means that Alzheimer's is kind of like, you're going to see Alzheimer's, you're going to hear about it, you're going to see it, it's going to be in your psyche, right? The simple answer to this question, again, I'll read again. I have a family member with Alzheimer's. Does that mean I'm going to get it? Well, the simple answer is no. And why is that? Because Alzheimer's is what we consider sporadic. And if you look up the term sporadic, It means that it does not run in families. Typically, Alzheimer's does not run in families. Now, for any of you that are in class today, and I have had the odd learner here who does know a lot about Alzheimer's because it does run in their family, I am not underplaying the whole thing of the what we call hereditary or familial, like family, familial type of Alzheimer's. Yes, it does exist. It's around 5%. It's not a huge percentage. So most of it's sporadic. Some of it's this hereditary type. That's what we hear in the media, on TV, and the news, you know, the big story. And yes, it's scary. Is it not scary if you've got a family member with Alzheimer's that there's a chance you could get it? What we're referring to when it's familial is a mother, a father, a brother, or a sister. Direct family member, not a distant uncle, not a cousin, not anything. We're talking within the direct family. Your chances does increase. Now, where it can get scarier too is if you have 2 direct family members with Alzheimer's, your chance skyrockets that you could get Alzheimer's because you've got that Alzheimer's, like it's a gene, it's something that they can check. I get asked this all the time. No, there is not a test that you can go just take because you feel like taking it to test to see if you got the Alzheimer's quote gene, or you know what they would call it, something like that. Yes, there is a test you can get done. It's a genetic type of test, and it's only offered here in Canada anyways to someone who really has symptoms of this possibility and they want to get the genetic testing done. It's very costly. They don't just offer it to just anybody off the street to get it done because you're scared of Alzheimer's. So keep that in mind. If for any of you that are here right now that are, you know, most of us are a little bit older, right? We're probably in our 50s or higher for the most part, the people that come to our classes here at Get Set Up. Typically, with the familial type of Alzheimer's, it's going to show up in your 30s and your 40s and your 50s. So if you haven't had any significant symptoms and you're already in your 50s or 60s, there's a good chance that you don't have this familial thing that's going to happen to you. I'm not guaranteeing it, but there's a good chance that it's not going to happen for you, okay? So that should sort of hopefully relieve some of the tension if you've got like an auntie that's got Alzheimer's. Sometimes people are not diagnosed correctly either. Remember that. Someone might have vascular dementia and not Alzheimer's, but they've just been said that they've got Alzheimer's. So we already just learned that if they have vascular dementia, maybe it was their lifestyle from having a stroke that they got that dementia. So we can all have sharp minds. I think for the majority of us, you know, as I say, it doesn't run in families. So the choice is ours, how much of at risk we want to be at for dementia. And this is what we're going to learn next. So just so we get it clear, and I really want to unpack this, sporadic Alzheimer's, which is the most common type of Alzheimer's, the largest part of it is due to what? 3 things, okay? Our genes, which I just talked about, you know, there can be a connection with our genes, our environment, and our lifestyle. Isn't that good news? I think that's good news because when I think of my lifestyle and I think of my environment, I think of, wow, these are things that are in my control. I can change these things. I can improve on these things. I can have control over these things. Maybe environment might be a little harder. Like maybe you live somewhere where there's a higher prevalence of something and, you know, you can't just pack up your bags and move to a fancy house somewhere else. Like maybe it's not as easy environment wise, but definitely lifestyle. We can make a difference with our lifestyle. So we're going to talk about risk factors now. So a risk factor, can anybody explain what a risk factor is? That they've heard that term before? Most of us have heard the term risk factor. Yeah. Okay. All right. It's you know, the thing about risk factors, we've heard the term, we kind of know what it is, but we don't want to put our hand up and say, yeah, I can give you an explanation. I get it. Like I would be shy about it too, because if you're not sure how to explain it. So a risk factor actually is our characteristics of our lifestyle. Look at those 3 words again, our lifestyle, our environment, and our genetic background. So those 3 things just reversed that increase our likelihood of getting a particular disease. So risk factors usually are referred to in relation to diseases, medical conditions. And you see the term, I should have highlighted this word mostly, is the word likelihood. So a risk factor, it increases your likelihood. It increases your chance. It increases your probability of getting a particular disease. Does that explain it? Do you guys understand that? Like, I mean, I've studied nursing. I did my nursing degree, but if somebody were to ask me what's a risk factor, I would have a stumble with trying to explain what it is. But explained this way makes sense. So those three things: genes, environment, and lifestyle, affect a risk factor, and whether you've got this risk factor or not, the likelihood of having this risk factor, or getting the likelihood of getting this disease if you have this risk factor. So we're going to go through now 12, I actually have 13 risk factors. I added one that are in our control. Let's get out of the way what's not in our control. What's not in our control?
Our ancestors.
Our genetics, yes. So another way of saying that is our genetics. You know, our genetics are our genetics. The DNA passed down to me is the DNA I got. On my mom's side, my mom had adult onset diabetes. My grandparents on her side both had diabetes. So I kind of have that sort of like the weakness for possibly getting diabetes. So I kind of know that already. And what else is out of our control? I mean, can Elon Musk stop himself from aging, or stop himself from the biological age? He can't, right? Oprah, can she stop? No, it doesn't matter how rich or famous or successful, or, you know, Bill Gates is still another year old every year, just like us. So we don't really have control of our biological age. Certainly we have control on how we're aging, like because of our lifestyle and our lifestyle and our environment, but our biological age we don't have control of. So let's get those out of the way. So we're not going to talk about things that we can't change, right? We can't change that. I'm going to be 56 this October, no matter what. So this is the list, or this part of the list, and you'll see the rest of the list. So let's go through these, and I want to make sure we have enough time to get through all of these, because I want to get to the brain foods, because that's kind of, for me, is the kind of the more exciting part. Okay, so excuse me. The first one is blood pressure. Anybody here, you don't have to put your hand up, but anybody here that has high blood pressure?
Yeah.
Some of us do. I'm lucky I don't. It can be hereditary. Blood pressure is a hereditary thing. So you could just live the greatest lifestyle and you walk every day and you've got to, you know, you're at your optimal weight and you still have high blood pressure because it's hereditary, can be hereditary. So if you have high blood pressure, this is what the risk factor says. People with high blood pressure have a higher, more on average, more chance of getting dementia than somebody with normal blood pressure. So you have a higher risk of dementia if you have high blood pressure. Now, if you are taking care of your high blood pressure, you've seen your doctor, you might be on medication, you're doing something to keep your high blood pressure back into the norms, you can give yourself a green check on that one. And that means that it's not a risk factor for you anymore because you've taken care of it. So that's the whole point of this list and risk factors, that you have an ability to make a change. So with blood pressure, if, you know, let's face it, if you've taken my heart health class, if you do not take care of your high blood pressure, you are damaging your heart permanently. A reason to get your blood pressure checked. I know that in the grocery stores and some of these places, we used to have, you know, you'd sit down on the chair, you're waiting for your prescription, you put your arm in and you test your blood pressure yourself because they got the cuff there. Well, those things are kind of like off limits right now because of COVID, but you can also buy a blood pressure cuff and use it at home. They have them in like pharmacies. You can purchase one for yourself. They're not that hard to use. I mean, you see the nurses and doctors use it. Not that hard to use. You can learn how to use it. My mom used to check her blood pressure when she tested her blood for her diabetes, because, you know, again, diabetes, you're at risk of getting heart disease. So all those things. So the message I want to get from this is, if you have high blood pressure or you suspect you have high blood pressure, please get it checked and do what you have to do to get it into the norm so you can eliminate this risk factor for dementia. The next one is smoking. I will say, you know, smoking's like any addiction. There's addictions. Some of us are addicted to salt. Some of us are addicted to food. Some of us are addicted to working. I have a friend who's addicted to running marathons. Like smoking is just one of those things. Unfortunately, if you were introduced to it at a younger age, because of the marketing and the like coolness of smoking, like my mother-in-law, she finally told me she smoked when she was young because she wanted to be cool. I feel for you. However, you can get over your smoking habit with some help. And there's lots of really great help out there. Why do I want you to get over your smoking? Because guess what? The research is out. You are at, get this, 45% higher risk of getting dementia if you smoke. I mean, if that's not a reason to stop smoking, you know, if you don't want to get dementia. Do you know that they've done studies? This is sort of sad because it's just sad. Would you rather get cancer or dementia? Do you know what most people say? They'd rather get cancer because nobody wants to lose their mind. Nobody wants to get dementia. So, I mean, study after survey after survey after survey, people will say, no, I'd rather have cancer than lose my mind. So if you are a smoker, I say, try and get some help. Try and reduce that risk factor for you because it's a big one. It's the biggie one. It's the big one on this huge list. Okay, the next one, cholesterol. Cholesterol levels is kind of like the blood pressure. If you know you have high blood pressure or you had your blood work, you can only learn about your cholesterol from blood work. If your cholesterol is high and your doctor's asked you to make some changes, listen to your doctor, listen to your healthcare practitioner. Maybe you're on a medication to bring your cholesterol into the normal range. Again, if you do that, that means you have taken care of that risk factor. So it's not one of your problems. You've taken care of it. That makes sense. The next one, obesity and lack of physical exercise. I put those together because typically if you are overweight or obese by the standards of the fat ratio, I think at some point I was considered obese based on the amount of weight I was carrying. And I'm looking at myself going, I don't think I'm obese, but it's the way the chart is. Typically, lack of exercise or physical movement goes with somebody who has a weight problem. So they're not moving their body enough to kind of keep themselves and maintain their weight. Now, I am not saying anything about overweightness and that it's not difficult, because I've been probably overweight not my whole life, probably since around 30 something. I've been overweight by 5, 10, 15 pounds. And I feel like every year it's that extra 3 pounds that just gets packed on. Well, now that I'm my age, that I am 55, I do not want to carry extra weight because my knees can't take it anymore. So I try to make sure I'm doing movement. But it is a risk factor if you are considered obese or quite overweight and you're not doing your body good by moving it, you are at higher risk of all these other things like the high blood pressure and the high cholesterol, which in turn makes you higher risk of dementia. Keep that in mind. Again, it might be the one that you're going to want to work on. Diet. We're going to talk a lot about diet soon. Oh, Adriana, you have a question.
Actually, I wanted to add something to the above the one that you just talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And I just forgot what I wanted to say.
That's okay. Just interrupt me when you remember.
Actually, on the cholesterol levels, what's also important for people, most people don't know that, is that actually you have also one that they sometimes call the good cholesterol. And if that one is high, it actually protects you from heart issues. I don't know if how it impacts your brain health and dementia. That's out of my knowledge base. But that's maybe interesting, also to know. And regarding the obesity, actually, I read a while back something that unfortunately nobody told me on time, and that's how I ended up like I'm now, partially, that's the reason, is that from a certain age, I think starting in their 30s, you have to basically eat every year like 3 kilos less, a certain quantity like less, to only hold your weight. And that's why we start putting on weight when we age, aside from things like menopause and so on.
Yes.
thyroids that we lose on the way and so on.
Yeah, good points. Thank you for sharing, Adriana. Absolutely. I agree with all what you just said. Like I'll address the cholesterol thing in a second, but with the weight, like if that was exactly it in my 30s, I just felt like I was gaining like about 3 pounds every year. And why was that happening? Well, I do know that we start to lose our muscle mass pretty quick. And so that's kind of where that happens. As we slowly lose a bit of muscle mass, unless we're doing lots of strength training, our body needs less calories. And so if you don't have the muscles, like, so as that's decreasing, if you're still eating the same amount of food, you're overeating then by just a little bit every year. So it's the muscle mass that slowly starts going down. So you want to keep up your strength training. To do with cholesterol, you're absolutely right. I try to make sure I get through all the classes, because sometimes I get feedback. People are like, oh, you're rushing the last slides and I want to get this information. So you're right, cholesterol. There is the good cholesterol called HDL, and then there's the bad cholesterol called LDL. We want to have lots of good HDL. Cholesterol is not bad, folks. Really, it is not bad. We need cholesterol to survive. Our body needs that lubrication. We need that in our bodies, in our vessels. It's the plaque and the bad stuff that we don't need. So if you eat avocados, great. Eat the avocados, get the good fat, because we need it to survive. We actually need cholesterol to survive. So when we talk about cholesterol levels, I should probably, it's the ratio. When you get your cholesterol level tested in your blood, they'll give you 2 numbers or 3 numbers even. They'll say LDL, HDL ratio. So if your LDL is low, that's good. But if your HDL is also low, your ratio is not good. Do you get what I'm saying? So the best cholesterol test or results you could get is a good high HDL cholesterol, a very low cholesterol, and a really good ratio then. So hopefully that makes more sense for you. Okay, so diet, we're going to get more into diet, but basically I'll say with diet is if you eat a unhealthy diet, and I'm just going to generalize here, high bad fats, high sugars, high salt, and packaged foods and processed foods, you are at higher risk of getting dementia versus the person who's eating the whole foods and eating healthier style foods. And we're going to get into the top foods soon. Alcohol. What I will say about alcohol is if you are an excessive drinker, people who drink excessively, you are at huge higher risk of dementia. What does excessive mean? I'm going to leave the definition to you, but what I will say is if you have to drink every single day, there might be a bit of a problem that you have to do it. Like, do you have alcohol freedom? I learned this term. Do you have freedom from alcohol? Can you take it or leave it? Can you go to a friend's place and you decide you're not going to drink because you're watching your weight or you're trying to be healthy, and there's free wine there and they've poured the wine for you and they've said, yes, come on, drink. I'm having a drink. You have a drink. Could you actually say, you know what? Not this time. Could you say that to your friend or to your whoever you are? That's real freedom from alcohol, that you can choose to not have it, even if it's free, right? Free is great, right? When we get free stuff. The other thing is if you are binging, drinking on the weekends, or there's a Friday night is your binge day and you're binge drinking, that could be excessively drinking. So keep that in mind, because you have an increased risk of dementia if you're drinking excessively. I'm not talking about the no drinkers or the minimal drinkers or the social drinkers. You have a glass of wine here and there. Maybe you have an occasional glass of wine with your dinner, but it's when it's like repeatedly over and over, you have to drink every single day, or you do this big binge, or you don't have freedom from alcohol. Then I want you to sort of take a look at that as a risk factor for you. The next one is level of formal education. So this one's sort of quite simple. Simply is use it or lose it. So any of you who are lifelong learners, and I'm going to guess that most of you are lifelong learners, that's why you're here learning as an adult, that you in a medical term, we call it a cognitive reserve. You are keeping your cognitive reserve in good shape so that you're just keeping your brain healthier. So you have lesser chance of getting dementia, lesser chance of having cognitive issues later on in life, because you're using it, you're keeping it strong. Remember, your brain's like a muscle. Your brain is a muscle, really, I guess. You've got to work it. The next one is depression, and this one's a little bit tricky because depression is like the researchers are in two camps. Some researchers feel that depression is a early symptom of dementia. Okay, others feel that let me see here. I'm just looking at my notes. So some feel that depression is just a risk factor for dementia, and others feel it's like the early symptom of dementia. So you see there's a little bit of a difference. Either way, we want to get our depression taken care of. So if you are somebody who suffers from depression, even if it's seasonal and you suffer from depression every year, try to make sure you take care of your symptoms and do what your health practitioner is asking you to do or recommend, so that you can make sure that you aren't suffering from depression, because it can sort of roll into dementia starting. All right, the next one is pretty self-explanatory, but head injuries kind of make sense, right? If you hurt your head seriously or repeatedly have head injuries, you have a higher risk of getting dementia. Can anybody think of any situation where that might be a situation that might happen? What about falling down on your bike?
Football players.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes. All those physical, high intensity type of sports like football, especially those poor defense guys. I mean, don't they just go head first into things? Then we've got rugby, we've got soccer, those soccer players that they come up together and they bang their heads and they hit the ball. There's that. What about boxing and wrestling? I mean, those guys are, guys and girls, sorry, men and women box. There's women boxers as well, but they're constantly hitting their head. I mean, we have our skull to try to protect our head, but you bang it and your head and your brain starts to swell and now you're in trouble. There is a huge link between head injury and dementia. Hearing loss. This is a tricky one. Think of it like I just described the cholesterol and the blood pressure. I had a gentleman in one of my classes. He had hearing issues and he had a hearing aid. And I said, okay, well, you're taking care of your hearing loss. This is what they say about hearing. If you have hearing loss and you don't take care of it, what happens to you in a social situation? I'll give an example. My dad, when it's just me and him, he can hear because it's just one voice and we're fine. But as soon as the family gets together, my two brothers and their families and their kids, he can't hear anything. It's too many voices, too many things. So he tends to retreat back. And when you retreat back, you're not as social. If you're living on your own, you're missing every second word on the news and you start to not live at your fullest. So what they have suggested from the research is that if you have hearing loss, you are slowly changing your lifestyle, your environment, and you have a higher risk then of getting dementia. There's some kind of connection there. If it doesn't sound right, do a little bit of research yourself. But I wanted to add this one in because those people that are stubborn, and some of us are stubborn as we age, we don't want a hearing aid in our ear. These days, the hearing aids, you can't even see them. But don't picture, this huge big thing on your ear. Like that's in the old days that's what they had, right? But now it's so much more, it's just hidden a little bit better if it's like an image thing for you. For my dad, he won't get one. But why? Because he doesn't want to feel old. Guess how old my dad is? He's 87 years old. He doesn't want to feel old, so he's not going to get a hearing aid. So okay. The last two I find super, super, super important. Good quality sleep. If you do not get good quality sleep, and what I mean is you go from your light sleep and then you get to the REM sleep, REM sleep, and then from REM sleep, you go into deep sleep. Some of us don't make it to deep sleep very often. And do you know it's only in deep sleep that our brain can do its flushing, its cleaning. It does its cleaning at night when we're sleeping. It can't do it during the day because you're using it. You're using your brain during the day. So at nighttime, there's a thing called amyloid betas. It's a two-word thing, amyloid -betas. They're like particles of protein. They get stuck in the neurons in your brain. And if you don't get it's like sweeping. If you leave your house for a while, you leave the floors for a while, it gets really, really dirty. And it's almost hard to just do the general sweep. Now you got to get the scrubber brush out and really try to clean what's stuck on the floor. So if your brain is allowed to do its flushing every day, it gets in there and it flushes out these amyloid betas before they become plaque. Because we know when you hear the word plaque, you think of it being stuck, right? So same thing, when they've done autopsies on Alzheimer's patients, dementia patients, there's plaque in the brain. So you want to get a good night's sleep for this very, very, very specific reason, for your brain health. And then lastly is living near busy roads. This one is a very, very interesting one. They've done research on this. I live on a medium busy road. Once in a while I get trucks, but it's mostly cars, but it's depending. I have a gym across the street, so certain times of the day it's a little busier. If you live close to a busy road, now what the research says, 50 meters from a busy road, that is for Canadians if they do meters, or UK if you use meters, 154 feet away from a busy road. If you're close to a busy road, chances are if you open your window or your balcony door or your front door, that the particles are coming in. You might not even smell them, but they're coming into your airfield from the pollution from the vehicles. They researched that pollution from vehicles can put you at higher risk of getting dementia. That one I want everybody to really take in, because what if you go for this great walk every morning, but you're walking on the busy road and you're just taking in the fumes of the car? Have you noticed people when they're jogging and you see them jogging not in the park, but right on the road? I always wondered, is that good for them? I don't think so, because you're taking in fumes. You're constantly taking in the fumes. So I would say number 12 is kind of like, is the hidden one that we just don't think about, but very, very related back to chances of getting dementia. All right, I'm going to stop sharing just for a sec and just see if we're all here. We're still all understanding what's going on and where we're at. Yeah, we're all good. Okay. And for all of you that are live streaming in, I hope that you're finding this interesting and would love to see you come into a class, the same class next time, so that you can actually make statements and ask questions and stuff like that. So sharing my screen again, simply, if you think of it this way as well, dementia develops because there are so many risk factors present in your life, in your body, that the combination of all these risk factors overwhelms your brain. That makes sense, right? So the more risk factors you have, the more your brain has to juggle. Like, oh, I'm getting pollution in. You're not having good night's sleep, so I can't clean the brain properly. You've got your high cholesterol. You're causing high blood pressure, and that's another symptom. And you're smoking every week. So you can see, like, if your brain had a voice, your brain would be saying, enough already, too many risk factors. So the more risk factors you have, the bigger chance you have of getting dementia. So what can we do? What can we do? We can reduce the amount. So maybe 1 or 2 risk factors is not going to overwhelm your brain. Your brain's going to say, okay, I get it. You know, you're still trying to lose weight. I'm proud of you. You're trying to lose weight. That's great. Maybe you're overweight, but you've taken care of all these other things. And I'm proud that your cholesterol levels are, I'm just pretending the brain is talking, but you know what I'm saying, right? This is how I learn. So I think about what my body might be saying to me. So I'm happy you've got your blood pressure under check, your cholesterol's in the right direction, you stop smoking, and this less extra weight you're going to work on. So we want to give ourselves some kudos for the things that we're improving on. All right, so what can we do? And we're going to get to the food really quick. What can we do to improve our brain health? The first one is physical movement. Get yourself moving. Try and move yourself every day. You know, it's important. I just saw Dawn's cat. I love cats, by the way. Well, look at our animals. They move every day. They don't just sit. I mean, although I know cats that like to sleep a lot, but they're moving. They're cleaning themselves. They want, you know, your dog is the one that says, let's go, let's go, let's go. I want to get outside. It's a sunny day. Our pets, you know, they kind of know where it's at. So if you have a pet, that's an awesome way to get yourself moving. Okay, that's the first one. The second tip is being socially active. When we're active, we're using our brain. We're learning new things. We're meeting new people. It's a little tricky right now, maybe just little small groups. So being socially active will help your brain health. Oh, Dawn, what's the name of your cat? Because I just adore cats and I don't have one.
Her name is Katrina.
Oh, hi, Katrina. Hi, cutie. The next one is challenging our brains. Why not learn something new, a new skill, maybe a new game? I'm not really a good chess player. That one would be just frustrating for me, not fun. But find something fun to do. Maybe you want to learn a new language because you're thinking of maybe traveling to that country. What else could you do? Just lifelong learning. Hey, you're here. I plan to take one of the yoga classes because I've always wanted to do yoga more regularly. So I'm going to take one of those early morning classes. And I want to take some of Russ's travel classes because there's some places I've never traveled to. So I want to learn about these places. So anything to activate your brain, like something new, something you've never done. The next one is embracing the healthy diet. And we're going to talk about this. But basically, I want you to cut out all those bad fats, all that excess sugar, the processed and the packaged foods. Some packaged foods is okay, like frozen vegetables. It's totally okay to be in a package. That kind of package is fine. Eating the rainbow. That's really the message I want to leave with you on that. But we will talk about the top brain foods soon. The next thing is make some safe and conscious choices. If you're going to ride your bike, wear your helmet. If you're going to ride your bike, wear your helmet the correct way. You know, tightened properly. So if when you fall, your helmet doesn't swoosh back and you still end up with a brain injury. So do some healthy things. Protect your eyes. If you're cutting your lawn, like a rock gets stuck in a lawnmower, if anybody cuts their lawn, you know, protect your eyes, protect your ears, loud noises and loud music. Don't listen to your music like high. Most of us older adults have figured that out. But what about my nephews, grandkids that just, you know, turn the TV up too high or their music too high? Just look at your environment. Where can you be safer? Also, for any of you that live alone, get rid of those rugs that move every time you step on it. Like, don't cause yourself to have a fall. So things like that. Improve your lighting in your home. Those are all things to help your brain. Managing your stress. Huge one. Managing your stress. As you know, when you have stress, it can increase your blood pressure. You have stress, it can cause you to want to go smoke more. When you have stress, you might go to alcohol. Do you see how stress is related to a lot of these risk factors? So if you're stressed, you can't sleep. That's a big one if you're not sleeping properly. So seek and accept support if somebody is willing to give you some support. And now we're on to the brain foods because I wanted to have enough time to talk about these because this is really fun. There is a man named Jim Kwik. If you have not heard of him, you can Google him. Jim Kwik is a gentleman. I think he's about around my age, maybe a year or two younger, somewhere around my age. He's 50 something. He had a brain injury when he was young, and it really affected his ability to learn. So he struggled through school. Every day of school was a heartache for him because he had to try so much harder to understand because of this brain injury. He made it his lifelong journey to improve his brain health and then share it with the world. He is like one of the top leaders now in brain health. So he teaches you how to improve your memory. He's got some really cool ways to remember things. Like if you can't write down your grocery list, he can teach you how to remember those 20 items. And when you get to the grocery store, you will remember all 20 items. I've taken some of his classes and some of his stuff. It does cost money for the most part, but he does have a free podcast. The reason I'm talking a lot about him is because this top 10 list is his list. This is his top 10 brain foods. So before I go on, just in case you're taking notes, anybody here that's taking notes, I can't see everybody's screen, but if you are taking notes, Joan's taking notes. I'm going to give you in your post email, because I've been asked for this and I want to make it easier for all of you. I'm going to give you a nice PDF of all there's 13 actually. I've added diabetes as a risk factor. Of all the risk factors, with a little bit of a description on what you might need to do. Okay, so you're going to get that as a handout, so you don't have to worry if you miss something. And I give you a handout for the brain foods because I had somebody request that and said, can you just give me a handout with the brain foods on it? So I've done that for you as well. Okay, so before we go on, so you're not like trying to write down everything. And I give you like the little tips underneath each of the foods too. I don't just give you the 10 foods. So brain foods, here's that avocado again. If any of you took my 7 healing foods, you knew I used avocados as one of my 7 healing foods. The brain loves avocados. Why? Because of those beautiful monounsaturated fats. Your brain needs good fat to function. Blueberries, Jim Kwik calls them brain berries. These ones are huge antioxidants. Like they help to get rid of all that oxidative stress in your body. Blueberries are beautiful, brilliant for your brain. Broccoli. Broccoli is a really, really amazing food for your brain. It's packed full of fiber and vitamin K and a bunch of other things. But broccoli, your brain loves broccoli. You're smarter when you eat broccoli. Try saying that to your grandkid. Eat broccoli, you'll be smarter. But it's true. It's true. The next one is coconut oil. A lot of us think that coconut oil, because it's a saturated oil, that it's not good for us, but that is wrong. Coconut oil, study after study after study will tell us that coconut oil is actually favored in our bodies. Our brain loves coconut oil. So if you are a cook and you like to cook, try and get a bottle or like the hard kind of coconut oil to cook with once in a while. The beauty about coconut oil when you cook is that it has a high smoking point, which means you can cook on high and you're not going to damage the oil. If you did that with olive oil, for example, and you put the heat up too high and your pan starts to smoke, you've ruined the oil. Do not eat it. Throw it like wet. Put that pan aside, let it cool down, clean it out. Don't cook with that because that smoke means you've oxidized the oil and it's bad for you. It's like putting a toxin in your body. So don't do that. So a way to avoid that is use coconut oil for cooking. If you're going to do a stir fry and you turn it up high because you're trying to fry up the chicken or whatever it is you have in your stir fry. So coconut oil is amazing for our brains. Eggs, another thing that our brain loves. There's a thing in it called choline, and choline helps to improve our memory. Now, a little aside with the thing about eggs is that eggs can be inflammatory to some people. So be careful with your eggs, like test it out. Maybe eggs doesn't agree with you. Some people have an allergy to eggs, so be careful with the eggs. But other than that, eat your eggs for your brain health. I used to have eggs for breakfast if I had an exam to write because I felt smarter. I felt more stable and grounded when I had eggs. And that's the reason, because, you know, it helps with memory. It helps just give you some good omega-3s and your vitamin E. The number 6th one, green leafy vegetables. Spinach, kale, collard greens, even some of the things like cilantro, some of those dark green veggies, greens like the herbs and stuff as well. Brain loves them. And then we have salmon. Here comes salmon. He's back in my big list again. I have it on my healing foods in my healing foods class. Why? Because the wild deep water salmon is an oily fish. And the oily fish has omega-3s in it, which most of us are lacking in our omega-3s. So enjoy some wild salmon. I'm not a fan of farmed salmon. If that's all you can get, I don't know. If it was the only thing I had to eat to survive, I would eat farmed fish. But if I have a choice, I would try to go with the wild caught salmon. And then the last 3 on the list, number 8, turmeric. You saw that on my list if you came to my healing foods class. Turmeric is the number 1 natural way to decrease your inflammation in your body. Guess what? Our brains can have inflammation as well. So if you have turmeric and you keep your brain in good shape by getting rid of any kind of swelling or any kind of inflammation in our brain, your brain is happier. It functions better. Yes, Carol. Oh, you're on mute. You just take yourself off of mute.
Oh, is that better?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
How do you use turmeric in your meals?
Okay, good question. Great question. Because some people are just not used to it. Unless you come from my heritage, like from an Indian background, we use turmeric a lot because we put it in our pea soup, which we call dal. We put it in our curries, the curry powders that most Indians use, like my background uses. It has turmeric mixed in with the curry powder. It's like it's a part of the curry powder. If turmeric is something you're just trying to get used to, you can put a tiny little bit in your soup. It's quite a bitter tasting thing. It's more for the color, and it's so packed full of immunity, like things for your immunity. I would put a tiny little bit in your smoothie if you have a green drink or a smoothie drink in the morning. You can put it in your soups is a good place. Somebody told me in a class that they actually put a pinch of turmeric in their oatmeal every morning. It does change the color, but they only put enough so that it doesn't change the flavor of their oatmeal too much, and they feel like they're getting the turmeric every day. So there's another thing. I would just say try it. Start it off by putting a little sprinkle. Here's a really great idea, Carol. I just did this recently. I just remembered. Do you ever make deviled eggs?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. When you do all the yolks and you do your little mixture with your little bit of this and a little bit of that, put a bit of turmeric into it. It brightens it up really nice, the yellow. And then when you fill the eggs back up, you're getting some really amazing stuff you're getting the turmeric.
So that's a powder.
It's in the powder. Buy it in the powder. I don't recommend getting it as a root. It's very hard to use as a root, and it stains your fingers and everything. Buy the powder.
Okay.
Yeah. And what did I use it for lately? Yes, I used it in my eggs, and I used it somewhere else too. Yeah, just try sprinkling it in with things. Oh, I wanted to tell you one little thing. For any of you, and I was one of those people who buys Kraft Dinner. Here in Canada, if you read the box of Kraft Dinner, they've really improved. They're trying to improve their image. There is no more color number 5 and all those bad chemicals. Guess what they use to color the Kraft Dinner? Anybody who doesn't know what Kraft Dinner is, that macaroni and cheese, if you don't know what it is. They use turmeric and paprika to color the Kraft Dinner now. Isn't that neat? They're using neat things. Nancy from our support mentions turmeric tea or milk. Yes, you can. There's a thing called golden milk. Milk spelled MYLK in the health food store, and they put turmeric mixed in with cocoa and a few things to make a hot drink. And you can make teas with turmeric. I buy tea bags that it's turmeric mixed with ginger and something else because it can be quite strong. So when you're first starting out, try it with your deviled eggs, try it in a smoothie, and then you can start doing a little bit more. And Adriana, thank you, Adriana. There's a lot of Eastern recipes that use turmeric. So not just Indians from India like myself, and from Fiji. I'm from Fiji actually, but Eastern recipes use a lot of turmeric. And I see turmeric in every grocery store now where I go. So it's becoming very popular because it's so healthy. All right, we talk quickly, walnuts. Walnuts are an amazing nut that you can crush into your porridge. You can put it in your smoothies as well. I put it in salads. I use walnuts. I crush it into my salad.
Mm-hmm.
And it's packed full of magnesium, which helps with your mood. So your brain is happier when you have walnuts. And then the last one, which I think is kind of fun, is the dark chocolate. So dark chocolate, the 70% or higher, not the crappy, Halloween chocolate. I'm talking about really good, healthy chocolate, can stimulate and help you with improve your focus and your concentration. And it stimulates those endorphins, so we feel really good. So that's the list. You're going to get the list, so not to worry about that. And I have a bonus is water. Our brain needs water to function. So if you're not hydrating yourself, make sure you're drinking either fresh water or you're drinking some teas. the best is the water or the watery vegetables, because you get water out of those vegetables. But try to have water beside you at all times, and research has said you'll even score higher on a test because your brain's happier if you're hydrated. So that's the class. We have a minute left. We've gone through, and now hopefully you all understand more that Alzheimer's is a type of dementia. Dementia is not a type of Alzheimer's. So dementia is the umbrella term. You understand hopefully more about the risk factors, and you can start working on yourself and go through your own life and kind of go step by step and see which ones you might want to work on. And then you've got some great hacks on how to improve your brain health, including the top 10 foods. So I would love to see you guys again in another class of mine. This is the end of this week. I teach on Thursdays and Fridays and Saturdays. So if you're looking for any of my classes, those are the days I teach. Right now, that's the days I have for teaching. And what else? I will send out the email to you shortly, so you'll get the list, the PDFs. And you will get a link to feedback if you would like to do the feedback. We don't force anybody to do feedback, but if you have something that you want to offer in terms of, or you just want to say, I like the class, love the class, give it the amount of stars you like. I think we start at 4 stars, but you can change it to 5 or 3 or 2 or 1 if you want. And then just give us some feedback so that we can learn from our teachings, because it's really important to us to learn and get better. We always want to get better. And there's a new button now. Oh, you would like some Fiji recipes? Well, I do have a really great recipe for you, Adriana, and it's a fish. It's called fish ro-ro, but it's a fish soup recipe. It's so delicious. Maybe in another class when I'm teaching somewhere I can give out recipes, I would teach you some really amazing Indian Fijian recipes. So when you sign up for a class now on Get Set Up, there's a little button that comes up saying invite a friend. So now you can invite somebody to come to a class with you. And of course, lastly, you can suggest classes to us. You can host an interest group. You can request a recording of it, and it all goes to help@getsetup.io. So thank you for being here. If you have a question that's burning, I will stick around for a minute or two if you have a question. Otherwise, it's great to see you. I love when you put your cameras on. I feel connected when I'm teaching, so I'm not just teaching to a blank screen. Otherwise, you know what we teach to, because it's Zoom, right? All I see is black, and I just see a person's name. And it's kind of hard to have a two-way thing when I don't see somebody's face. So I'm always grateful when somebody turns their camera on. I don't care if your room's messy. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me if you're in your lounge clothes, because I'm wearing my Get Set Up t-shirt, but I'm wearing kind of my capris down below, so I'm not dressed up. So feel free to turn your camera on next time. And Carol, I really love your background. Is that a picture of you with a grandchild?
Yes, but how do I get it back off? I got to go back into a Zoom meeting and find out how to delete it.
You know what? We have Nancy still here. She'll teach you. She'll teach you how to do it, because there's a way to change your background. So
good.
Now the other Nancy that's in the class, I see your beautiful background. Oh, I love is that your garden, or is that somebody else's garden? I love backgrounds. I find it really, really cool to see people's backgrounds. Real ones and the ones that they choose.
Street. I think
it's
beautiful.
It is very beautiful. Yeah, and Cease, you've got, that looks like you're traveling somewhere. What is that background?
That's the Grand Canyon.
Oh, nice, nice, nice.
Whoa,
Okay,
nice.
I like this part of it because it's like a circle here, and
I love it. I love it.
It's my favorite picture, I think, of going to the Grand Canyon. Besides,
it's gorgeous. I think it's Donna, one of our guides, that teaches how to change the background. I'm not great at it. This is my real. Yeah. Oh, you did. Okay. This is my real background. Like this is my like, it's really sunny here, so I have this down so that it's not too glary. But anyways, I guess I shouldn't go too far over because we are live streaming. So great meeting you all, and I hope to see you again sometime maybe next week. All right.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, Nancy, for helping out today. Bye, everybody. Bye, Alma.
bye. Thanks.
Have a great weekend, everyone.